reviews for the first few books of September. I didn't read quite as much last month, enjoying the last little bit of summer vacation, but I'm back to normal life now and back with a bunch of fun reviews. So I read My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Fredrik Backman. And in general, I liked the Fredrik Backman books that I've read. I liked A Man Called Ove, and I really liked Anxious People. That's probably the best one that I've read by him. This book has a lot of similar quirky charms. It takes some very serious subjects and lightens them up. This follows a very precocious 7-year-old with a crazy and adventurous grandmother. And when her grandmother passes away, she leaves a series of letters for her granddaughter Elsa to deliver to all of the neighbors and all of the people, saying that her grandmother is sorry, and through the process Elsa learns about her neighbors and grows to care for these people that her grandmother cared about. And it deals with a lot of very difficult subjects, but in a very light-hearted way. I feel like one of the strong suits of this book was that it talked about the stories that the grandmother had told Elsa as a child, and they were of a fantastical land, but in reality, all of these stories were actually about these people that her grandmother knew. And so being able to hear the stories and kind of extrapolate which characters they're talking about and why it was so meaningful, I thought that that was a strong point in the book, but also kind of annoying at times when you are hearing an interesting story, but instead you have to go into an imaginary land. It feels a little overwrought. Also, it falls into that trap of precocious children in books. I feel like can be kind of obnoxious. But overall, it was really cute, had a lot of really sweet wisdom in it. I did enjoy this book, but if you are new to books by Fredrik Backman, I'd recommend like Anxious People or even A Man Called Ove first. But if you're a big fan of him, you'll love this one. Very similar themes. So I read All Things New, Rethinking Sin, Salvation, and Everything in Between by Fiona and Tara Gibbons. And this is a book about theology in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it was very well researched. I thought that for me, it came at a good time. I feel like I've been having a little bit of soul searching, reevaluating my relationship with God, and that's my daughter. And I feel like this book was really good at getting back to who is God, why is he important, and if we say that God is a loving God, what does that mean for us personally and how we treat others? And I thought it was an excellent book, a really great kind of way to recenter your life, and I highly recommend it to anyone who is a member of the church. I finally got around to reading The Green Mile by Stephen King, and I know a lot of people love this, so I'm probably in the minority here, but I hated this book. First off, the writing didn't do it for me. This follows our prison warden over E Block. It's a death row type part of the prison, and it's following this during Depression era, and you hear about the inmates and then what happens when, my daughter again, and what happens when a black man named John Coffey is brought in, and the warden doesn't think that he's guilty and thinks that he may have some sort of divine or magical powers. Now, I hated the writing. So, I mean, how many chapters can we read about a mouse? It was a little too much for me that way. But really, what kind of threw me off was how uncomfortable I felt reading about John Coffey in this book. Anytime the main character would talk to John Coffey, I would think, I've never met a real person who's like John Coffey. And this doesn't ring true to me. It feels And so I did a little research after, and actually this is a trope that comes up in a lot of literature and movies, where there is this magical black person who comes in with either wisdom, know-how, or in this case, magical powers, and is part of the white character's journey to learn more about his self. It's a plot device. It's not a real thing. And I just felt like it was some sort of caricature. When I was looking this up, I saw an article titled, "Why Stephen King Needs More Black Friends?" And I feel like that kind of sums up my thoughts on the book. It just, well, the story itself was trying to say good things. I just felt like it wasn't done right. And so, anyways, I didn't enjoy this and I wouldn't recommend it. So I read the book, The Office of Historical Corrections, and it's a novella with other stories, and it's written by Danielle Evans. And this actually was really well done. It has a variety of stories dealing with, for the most part, it dealt with a lot of issues around race or womanhood in the United States, and I thought that it was really well handled. What I really liked about this was how the author was able to, in each of the stories, really round out the person. You felt like their experiences, you really understood their experiences and how they shaped their current actions, and you didn't feel like these characters were being purposely malicious as much as just, circumstances and society had really messed them up. So I don't know, I felt like it was a very good look at an entire person, each of these short stories, and I really did enjoy all of them overall. Okay, now for one of the best books that I have read all year. So I read Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty by Patrick Radden Keefe. Is that right? Sorry, it's my daughter again. And this book was so well researched, so in depth, and so gripping. It was long. It was a long book, but I could not stop. I needed to know what happened, even though I know the ending because it's based on true events. And it's the same author who wrote one of my other favorite books of the year, the Say Nothing About the Troubles, and I just think he does an excellent job. So this follows it's basically a biography of the Sackler family, and if you don't know who the Sackler family is, they were in charge of Purdue Pharma, and basically their family orchestrated and pushed the opioid epidemic, and in a lot of ways you can call them responsible for a lot of what has happened with the opioid epidemic, and even people addicted to heroin. But it's all related to some of these shady tactics that they have employed, and also just the complete lack of any sort of accountability or remorse on the behalf of this family. So it's excellent. Will really just, I feel much better informed, and as always, as with the other book, this author is very great at saying, these are where my shortcomings are, this is how I found my sources, go do more research, and I'm so interested. Anyways, excellent book. I highly recommend this to everyone. I think it's just really well done. Okay, so I did continue on the series of Shadow and Bone. I read the second book, Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, and I read it after watching the Netflix series. I read the first book before watching the Netflix series, then I watched the Netflix series, and now I read the second book. And the Netflix series made me really not care about this storyline in the book, the main storyline. Alina, what's going on with the Darkling, I just didn't care. Instead, I liked kind of the other storyline, and I can't remember names, I'll call, with the emo boy, the knife-throwing lady, and the guy who shoots things. I really liked that storyline. And so, reading this book, it was fine. I just get kind of annoyed with Alina, and honestly, I author is going for love triangle, who's she gonna pick, but why is this main character defined only by her relationships to the men in her life? It is obnoxious, and honestly, all of them are horrible for her. I hope she picks none of them. Mal is a whiny baby. The Darkling is evil and abusive. And the prince is greedy and horrible. Like, they're all bad. All of them are terrible. And I couldn't really care. Am I going to read the last one? Yes, because I'm holding out for the Netflix series. I want to know what happens. I want to, like, kind of keep up my interest in it because I liked the Netflix series. But am I going to read the parallel series that follows my favorite storyline from the show? Probably not, because I don't want to ruin it. I really like that part of the show. So, I don't know. If you've read these books, let me know what you think. Is anybody still excited about, Alina and the Darkling? Or have you just, like me, moved past all of the relationships in this and found them obnoxious? So, anyways, let me know. This one, it is what it is. So, The Shadow King by Maza Mengistu is a novel set during Mussolini's takeover of Ethiopia in 1935. Now, this book is not for the faint of heart. There are quite a few depictions of rape, torture, violence. It is set during wartime, and there were a lot of horrible things that were... Oh, that's my daughter. There were a lot of horrible things that happened during that time. Now, where I feel like this novel was very successful was showing women and how women are involved during wartime and their role. And I feel like women just in general, over the course of history, have had the short end of the stick on a lot of things. But it was very successful in showing these strong women in very difficult situations. So I did enjoy this. I thought it was worth a read. Is it an easy read to get through? No, it's really awful, but it was very informative and well done.